Are you overwhelmed by the challenge of personalizing communication for thousands of students? That's where Element 451's AI assistants come in. From nudging prospective students to guiding those already on their journey, AI assistants don't just automate, they write, build, and optimize every step of your digital campaigns. Discover how at element451.com/AI team.
Hi, I'm a higher ed CMO and I have a confession to make. I don't think my career would be what it is if I hadn't gotten my master's degree in integrated marketing communications at West Virginia University. And I'll also confess that the day after I quit my job at Old Dominion University to launch my consultancy, I applied to teach in that same program because I wanted to stay connected to students, I wanted to stay sharp, and I'm going to admit, I also wanted to keep an .edu email address. So I'm really thrilled to be bringing on the show somebody that I have admired for almost 15 years, and that is Chad Mezera. He is the Assistant Dean of Online Programs in the College of Creative Arts at West Virginia University, and he has absolutely done a phenomenal job with building and marketing the IMC program. And so I think this episode would be really great for not only marketers who are interested in their approach to marketing this program, but also to program directors to see how somebody else who is marketing specifically graduate programs is approaching that effort. So I hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome to Confessions of a Higher Ed CMO, a podcast that empowers higher ed marketers to bring innovation, creativity, and excellence to their work. I'm your host, Jaime Hunt. Join me every 2 weeks for discussions with some of the best minds in higher education marketing. Confessions of a Higher Ed CMO is part of the Enrollify Network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher educational professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org or check out some of my personal favorites linked in the show notes below. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered all-in-one student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com. I'm so happy to be here with Chad Mezera, who is the Assistant Dean of Online Programs for the College of Creative Arts and Media at West Virginia University. Welcome to the show, Chad.
Thank you very much.
I'm
Happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you on the show. And I've actually used WVU's IMC program as an example of a program that I think does a really good job of marketing for years. Like I enrolled in the program in 2009, and I think I've been using it as an example since 2009. So the Integrated Marketing Communications program at WVU, when I was in it, it was a graduate program, and I think that there wasn't any specialties to it. So I know it's changed a lot since I graduated in 2011, but can you tell us a little bit about the IMC graduate program?
So the program started in 2001 as a certificate program tied to our traditional Master of Science in Journalism program here at WVU. And the interest was very strong early on for the IMC program. But at that time, there were very few. Northwestern was sort of the leading program, and there were a handful of other all traditional programs. And so WVU explored expanding their IMC program because of sort of the limited faculty that we had here on campus, looked at it more in the online space. And so in 2003, it launched as a full master's program here at Master of Science in Integrated Marketing Communications. And it grew fairly rapidly early on. And to your point, we sort of kept to that traditional model for the first, I'd say, 7 or 8 years of the program's existence before we started really expanding into new areas. It started, I think the first expansion was the Digital Marketing Communication Certificate Program, which we started in the late 2000s, had some sort of false starts with it, and then we started adding the electives probably around the 2009-10 timeframe. And that's really when the program took off from the perspective of customization and the enrollment expansion that we saw. And that really is also when we broke from that traditional model and started looking at specializations where folks in the industry were coming into our program, and where they were looking to utilize education as a means of differentiating their career path and using a master's education, a practitioner's master's education, to sort of focus their career and create that differentiator for them. So that's sort of brings us to where you came into the program, Jaime. And then from there, the 2012 to 15 timeframe was when we started looking at new programming. That's when the data marketing communications program was being designed, and it launched in 2016. We launched the digital marketing communications master's program in 2020 at the height of the pandemic, which was perfect timing, um, which was not a good time to launch a program, but that was not planned, certainly. And then the specializations were in between those two, and that was when IMC became really customizable, and students were able to get a credentialed certification or specialization along with their master's degree. And we have the seven certificate or the seven specializations that are currently available, including the higher ed marketing specialization.
I feel like I should get some sort of commission for the students I've sent to the program because I know there's at least two currently enrolled students who I had talked to about the program because I got so much out of it. And what really drove me to enroll in it was I was a journalism undergrad and got into higher ed PR. And then when I was at UW Oshkosh on my fifth day, the person who was doing marketing resigned abruptly. Like, I don't think she even gave a 2 weeks notice, if I remember right. It's all foggy. And I was asked, like, would you do this temporarily? And I'm like, sure. And temporarily lasts 3 years. And I thought about halfway through that, like, I need to get a master's degree in this because I want to know more. I want to get it. And when I was at UW Oshkosh, we were one of the first departments called integrated marketing communications. And so that's like what I was looking for. And it was WVU and Northwestern, and WVU's program just like really spoke to me. And I really wish the higher ed marketing specialization was available back then, but I got so much out of the program. And I was just talking to my husband about I don't think I would have ascended to the VP level without a master's degree. I mean, you hardly ever see sitting at the cabinet table somebody who doesn't has only a bachelor's degree. We can debate whether that's a valid way to rule out or include somebody in the cabinet, but for me, it was definitely something that I needed to do. And I'm wondering if that's something that you see for the students who enroll in that higher ed program if they're looking for that reason.
Our program definitely sees I don't want to say overrepresentation, but higher ed marketers are definitely represented within our student group. And I think there's a couple of reasons to it. To your point, folks that are in higher ed marketing and who work for institutions, even staff positions in marketing teams, tend to be highly educated. We tend to, look for those credentials when we look at hiring. Most of the folks on my team have master's degrees, at least. It's not to exclude, those that don't, because experience has brings a lot of weight as well. But I think that particularly maybe in the higher education vertical, there's an understanding that you really value education when you carry a degree. And so, I think when we looked at, the areas of specialization when we were creating them for the IMC program, some of them are sort of direct industry, creative strategy and execution. That's, a very clear sort of industry area, some that are more specific like healthcare and higher ed. But I think that in higher ed specifically, you do see folks that tend to carry degrees and respect those that also aspire to that education. And our program is a practitioner oriented program. And so, our curriculum and our faculty are also working people. And so I think that learning from people who do and sort of carry that focus is also an important thing. We really are, maybe to a fault, committed to ensuring that people learn the best practices that are working. And as those things change, and as the industry changes, and as the approach of marketing changes and are impacted by technology and now AI, that our curriculum has to continue to evolve. And that sort of reflects in how the program has changed over the years and will continue to change. So
It appears that you've been committed to the evolution of the program, and that I think is really important because you certainly don't want to be learning about MySpace in 2024 in like a social media marketing class.
I have a funny story. And actually, it taught us a lot about committing to, particularly to specific social media channels. But back in the day, we have an emerging media in the market course, and this was in the time of, what was that one that you had an avatar? Oh man, I forget the name of it.
Oh,
It was so
Second Life
Second Life. Yeah, it was so big for and at
for
one
like
point.
15 minutes.
Exactly. Everyone was like, "Oh, we have to create a place in Second Life." And anyways, we built this into one of our courses because it was the next big thing. And you're right, overnight it just disappeared, and marketers just fled, and you never heard about it again. Anyway, we started running this course, and the students were just like, "What are we doing here?" So we learned to become agnostic of specific tools and specific approaches pretty quick back then. But ultimately, I think that's the valuable lesson, though, is even today, as marketers, we just can't commit to things change so fast that the audience changes so quickly, and as educators, we have to be nimble, and that's the challenge because our systems are not. You work in higher ed long enough, the systems are not nimble, and
No.
so how you work around that is really the challenge. But it's also, I think it's the fun part in committing to understanding, where students need to be and where they need you to be, is sort of, I think, one of the things that's made us different and kept us different.
Feeling like all us like OG higher ed marketers are like having flashbacks to Second Life right now and are just like, no, like twitching and stuff. Like that was so they were trying to build like a Second Life ecosystem for our College of Nursing or College of Health Sciences or whatever at that time. And I just think there's got to be some like landscape of empty Second Life fields with like one person still roving in it or something. Well, with the IMC program, like I mentioned, in my introduction, I've always talked about it as doing a really great job of marketing the program. And I would love to hear your thoughts because a lot of listeners market graduate programs and market online programs. And I think it'd be really valuable to hear what your approach has been to marketing it.
We remain really focused on our audience, and our audience continues to change. The three marketing communication specific programs, data, digital, and IMC, all attract different students and different audiences. And so, if you put them on kind of a continuum, the digital program is our youngest audience. It's more tactical in terms of the curriculum. They tend to come directly out of undergrad, and in fact, it was created as a response to that shift in students coming directly out of undergrad into a graduate program. Our IMC program, as you know, was developed for mid-career. 5 to 7 years professional experience at point of application was the sort of average student in that program, and continues today, now that the digital program has moved some of the younger students off. And then the data program skews older, 7 to 10 years professional experience. And so understanding those three different things helps us refine our marketing approach by program. And so even though they're sort of sibling programs, we do cross promote them. We do look at them individually, look at the audiences individually, and those audiences continue to change. Their expectations change. Their skepticism of education and the value of education changes. It's a really strange time to be in higher education marketing, as you know.
Yeah,
and, and
yes.
so, and I think that's creating those challenges, for us as well as everyone else, in terms of how do you both communicate the value proposition of an educational program at the cost point that they're at and convince people that that ROI is there. I think it's easier probably for practitioner programs like ours as opposed to, some of the more traditional programs. I think it's probably also at the graduate level a little bit more of a direct opportunity. In terms of our tactics, those change consistently. We use an integrated approach, sort of that practice what we preach kind of thing, with a healthy mix that starts with, sort of our thought leadership and our maintenance of our owned assets. And then, we use, paid search and some social media, although that can get very expensive if you don't pay very close attention to what you're doing there. LinkedIn, I love, as a social media tool, but you can blow a budget in LinkedIn if you're not
Yes, you can.
careful. But yeah, we have a consistent, we meet basically every other week as a marketing group and look at all of our initiatives, and then we do, sort of individual campaigns based on where we are in recruitment cycles for each of our upcoming terms. So it's an ongoing and never ending and always changing challenge for us. And now, we have an undergraduate IMC program that we're growing at this time, and then the two new programs we have with the merger of the college, we have two new graduate programs, one in game design in our School of Art and Design, and then one in music business and industry in our School of Music. And both are the music business and industry is a mature program. It's been around for a number of years, but it's always remained relatively small because it hasn't had a dedicated marketing approach. Pretty excited about the potential for that program. Game design is a new program, and we're very excited about where we might be able to go with that. But new areas for us, new audiences, and so the marketing folks are overwhelmed. So
That's believable.
it's fun because we get new, it's new products. It's
Right.
new things to do.
Well, I have good news for you. In about 10 years, my nephew, who is 8, wants to be a game designer. So
Fantastic. I have an undergrad and grad program I'd like
it'll
to
be
talk about.
perfect.
So
Well, one of the things I really like about what you do, and I'm trying to see if I have it on my desk, and I do. I just got my copy of Brian Piper's Epic Content Marketing for Higher Ed book. And one of the things it feels like you guys invest at least some resources in is content marketing, like with the podcast and the conference. But can you tell us a little bit about that?
I would sort of roll it back to the development of the Integrate conference, which started back in 2005 was the first on-campus event, and it was sort of an interesting thing. Early on, we had this fully online program that we were dedicated to maintaining full online asynchronous education so that we could attract audience regardless of geography. And yet we felt that we wanted that human component, and so we put this conference together. At first, it was sort of this weirdly contrived, recruitment slash reunion event that we did. And I won't go into, you know, we learned so much from the missteps, and I could probably talk for an hour about all the things we did wrong over the years. But every time, we sort of refine this idea of, yes, we're online. Yes, we have this growing community of marketing communications practitioners that are all around the world and doing some amazing things. And so over the years, this conference started creating this community of people who would come to campus even though they lived in, LA or New York or Chicago. And so we started growing this concept of marketing communications community and thought leadership that was sharing these best practices in a face-to-face event at first with each other. And the Integrate conference grew out of that. So we do this annual event mostly, and it's I guess, pseudo annual now, thanks to the pandemic.
Oh,
Um,
right. Yeah.
but we do an event where we've had, upwards of 250 people from our community come to Morgantown, and we do sessions and keynote speeches and workshops, and it sort of created for us this notion that it's not just about what you learn in the classroom, that there's there's an area of expertise and a community that we developed here that we want to continue. The value proposition for our program is not just get the degree, learn the classes, get the degree, and off you go. That we want to continue to engage with our folks, for the duration of their career and be a relevant asset to them beyond just the program. And so that extended to other areas. The podcast, which is hosted by Ruth Stevens and Cindy Greenglass, who Cindy is also an alum of the program, and she teaches for us as well. And they've gotten some really tremendous speakers, some that are alums of our program, some not. But they do this podcast, which does get some industry leaders. They've got actually two now, because you can't just keep things tight. You got to continue to expand things. But they've done some really amazing, had some amazing guests and some remarkable insights. We've got blogs that are both written by alums as well as folks, students in the program. And then the Integrate events have both maintained the on campus, but now we do them online. We'd like to do monthly, but there's they become so big that we have a little more planning. So quarterly, we tend to do an online, and they're free and free for everyone. So you don't even have to be an alum to attend. We welcome folks to just participate in our community, and be part of what we believe is just a great group of marketing communications professionals that are connected through our programs. But that's one way that we also maintain that relevance of keeping up with what's happening in the industry and ensuring that we never sort of become complacent.
For me, like some of those content marketing things that you do, like Integrate in the blog and all of that, really showcase the kind of alumni that you're producing, like the places they work. Like this is a program where you're producing people that end up with really great careers. Can you tell me a little bit about what some of the alumni are doing?
It's remarkable and humbling. So, and I don't, I always get nervous when I single people out, but we have folks that represent agencies, and on corporate side, we've got a lot of folks in higher education. I do think that we are overrepresented, definitely here at WVU. I really, it's so funny that when you look at our marketing teams across the institution, just how many folks here are alums of our
I
program.
bet.
And I don't want to be flippant, but it's like you really can't like go anywhere at WVU without seeing IMC alums. But that's good because we started here and we've really we've really got a strong reputation both here and in both the academy and in the industry. It's to the point now where they look to hire folks, graduates of our program. So we have pockets of folks like in DC and in Chicago. Those are two very strong areas for us. Increasing in Texas. I think the move to the Big 12 really helped us there,
Mm.
which is an interesting thing. But we saw a surge in Texas once we joined the Big 12, and that's really a hot area for us in terms of both where our alums are going and where they're finding jobs, as well as where our students are coming from. But we have folks that are in leadership positions in Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies, and doing incredible things. Which, we've got them in Microsoft, we've got them at Dell, we've got, and the list it's exhaustive and really amazing. So.
I was thinking about one of the benefits of the program being online is you get people from all over the world in the program. And I remember one of my classmates was in Egypt during the Arab Spring, and she was like in the discussion boards. Like she disappeared for a number of days, I think, because if I remember right, like the government shut down the internet or whatever. And she came back and it was so interesting to hear her perspective on things. And I think some assignment had something to do with Gap, or Starbucks or something, and getting her perspective on that from, somebody in a different part of the world. And there was people in the military in Germany. And it was just such a breadth of experiences that I don't think you can make up for that. Like that to me just was like, oh my gosh, having this international peers in this group just so made the difference for me with the program.
And you bring up something that it is, like I had no intention of working in higher education myself. I wound up here quite accidentally, and I'm 20 years into a 3-year stay at this point. But it really is the people that have made this so rewarding. And I mean, higher education is a rewarding place. It's perplexing at times, and but it is a rewarding place to spend a career because you do see so much potential value and impact on people's lives. To your point, the stories and the people that we've been able to help and impact and their stories over the years, it's just something that I don't think people that don't have the opportunity to work in higher education understand, or have the sort of context of where people, the commitment and the sacrifice that is made by people to achieve what they can achieve in programs like ours. But we've got the military partnership, the DINFOS partnership, and at this point we have a large number of folks that are in active duty and deployed that are in our programs. And some of the stories that we hear from them are just, I mean, it'll just stop your heart. I mean, just amazing that they are able to continue. Some of them will tell that they're deployed, and they look at these classes and their experience in classes. That's sort of their normalcy. Like, that's after
Mm.
after they spend their day doing the things that they do, that their class time is their opportunity to sort of feel normal, which is, and it goes on and on. And we tell you stories of people that were late to turn in their final projects, and we had one that I think they were in Alaska of all places, and I'm not sure even what their role was, but their internet went down wherever they were, and they had to get on a helicopter to get somewhere to get to their final project submitted in time. This was earlier on in the program, but just, I mean, you hear these stories and what people do, and I don't know, it's why, even though you have a bad day every once in a while, you just you just keep going, because the good that you can do and what your program can do for people is amazing. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to serve folks in the industry. So
Hey, it's Jaime. Element 451 is hosting the AI Engage Summit on October 29th and 30th. This free virtual event features many of your favorite Enrollify creators and will explore AI's impact on student engagement, enrollment marketing, and institutional success. Learn to tap into AI to automate personalized outreach, improve your emails, streamline content creation, and boost campaign performance. Plus, hear directly from current students on how AI is influencing their engagement and campus life. And don't miss my session, AI Centricity Accelerating Student Success and Innovation in Higher Education, at 2 p.m. on October 30th. The AI Engage Summit is your guide to understanding and applying AI at your school. Registration is free. Visit element451.com to save your spot. Now back to the show. I absolutely love that. And I was recently on a podcast with Kin Sedgepal, and it's about finding your why. And it's that like transformative impact that you can have on people's lives, and how, there's nobody who's not transformed by education. And to be a part of that is such a privilege that I love so much. And honestly, like, I quit my job and applied to teach in the IMC program, like, I think like one day apart, because I was like, well, I still have to be connected to students. And even though my consulting is totally focused on higher ed, it's like I still want to be able to have that interaction with students. And it's been so rewarding. I had to give a student like some, constructive critique on her last paper. She blew me away with this paper. Like, absolutely just like took it to heart, and did, a really, really solid job on it. And like seeing that growth, it just feels really good. Like we're so lucky in higher ed that this is our jobs.
I was supposed to be a big ad guy. That was my plan. I worked in government technology and in a nonpartisan government think tank, and neither were very fulfilling. Certainly government is what it is, but I was very fortunate to have accidentally wound up here. Every model is different, and I certainly think that there's opportunities for folks to try different things. But one of the things that we've really clung to here, small class sizes, highly engaged instructors, and really a design that is committed to that student engagement and ensuring that they don't get lost in the mix. We sat down yesterday and talked about one of our programs, and we're looking at the digital program and where it serves and needs to basically be adjusted for serving that younger audience, because there's areas of it that we don't feel it's quite as effective as it needs to be for that specific demographic. And it always starts with our team is looking at the student experience, looking at what their expected outcomes are, making sure that we're looking first at that journey and how we can address the challenges that they're having, and then we look at the instructors and the faculty, how we support them, that we have a very specific kind of support structure in place for faculty that really focuses their energy on student engagement and teaching and the content, and not so much on all the administrative things that can overtake instructor time. And I just think that that's how programs and how institutions start expanding their online presence. It needs to be with a real commitment to that back level of support and ensuring that the students are number one in the mix. I think sometimes we forget about we forget about that, and we look more at sort of convenience, and that's the wrong way. And that's why sometimes students get frustrated and feel like we're not serving them.
I have found, like, when I give keynotes on busting silos or whatever and trying to inspire an audience to get out of their silos, to work more collaboratively, that sort of thing, I always see the heads start to nod the hardest when I'm talking about why we're here. And it's the students, and that we're not serving our students by staying siloed and staying in our own little worlds and not reaching out and not getting more input and not hearing more voices at the table and all of that. That's when people really start to nod, because I think that's what none of us are in it for the money, right? Or the fame or the glory or whatever.
There's fame in higher ed.
Right, right. So that, like, none of us are in it for that because it doesn't exist. But I think we're all mostly in it for the students, and that feels really good to be part of that. How do you envision the IMC program evolving in the next, like, 5 to 10 years?
We just underwent a college merger. We're an independent college, the Reed College of Media, and now we're the College of Creative Arts and Media. And so it added a large additional, three new three new schools that are now part of a four-school college. But ultimately, what it will create is new opportunities for enhanced programming. You used the word a couple of minutes ago, but that breaking up silos. I think in a decentralized academic model like WVU, one of the challenges is getting academic units to work together to share expertise in coursework, and so one example of that existed between the old Reed College of Media and the old College of Creative Arts, which was the advertising program lived in Reed College of Media, and graphic design lived in creative arts. And as a result, those two programs did not always collaborate as closely as they could have or should have for the benefit of the students. And so those kinds of connections will hopefully be able to be made. And I think that it will start impacting our online programs. Our IMC program certainly could benefit from additional graphics, opportunity, graphic design opportunities and curriculum. And so I think that there'll be some of those just from the benefit of the merger. We'll be able to create some new potential specializations. But I think more than that, and if again, I wish I had a crystal ball because maybe I could be famous. Um, but
You'd
I
be
think,
rich, probably.
yeah, it. Well, again, we are in higher ed, but I think more than anything, what I would say is, continued access. I would like to continue to serve this industry, which is in flux and changing. We've got the whole AI question. It sort of feels to me like the social media question a few years ago. And there's that sort of expected hand wringing of, oh, is this going to take my job away? And obviously, it's a tool that we'll figure out how to use, and there'll still need to be people involved and educated people who will use AI inevitably to do things more efficiently, but it probably won't, be a massive paradigm shift for the employment thing, the employment side of the industry. I could be wrong, but I think that will inevitably create some pretty substantial changes, both in terms of how we teach or what we teach, as well as how we teach. Because, one of the things that has already happened, as I'm sure, your colleagues at other institutions will tell you, is that sort of reactionary response to AI and how students use it. And some folks, their immediate reaction is, no, you can't do anything in AI. And others are like, well, of course you want them to use AI because they're going to in their careers. We need to figure out how to let them do it ethically and in a way that's going to improve the work without replacing their learning. And so that's already, some of the challenges that we're working through and encouraging, and our instructors and faculty to think about how to incorporate it in a meaningful way, so that we are not, forbidding students to, use Grammarly.
Right.
So, but I think that outside of that, the other challenge that we have is, we don't know where the industry is going. We don't know what social media will continue to do, and so our curriculum will continue to change as those things become known. So for us, the canary in the coal mine proverbially is our elective offerings,
Hmm.
and the ebbing and flowing of interest and enrollment demand in those sort of points us to where our student interest and their perceived value in terms of what they are looking at in their own careers. Right now, digital storytelling is like that course. We can't offer basically enough seats in that course. Content marketing is strong. Areas that are not, augmented and virtual reality, that course
Interesting.
has really sort of died on the vine. Some of our traditional research courses, B2B direct marketing, consumer sales promotion. These are courses that students are leaning away from. And so, we're sort of seeing these shifts from the traditional to the digital, which is not surprising. We're also seeing, interestingly enough, a shift away from healthcare. And
Interesting.
and I think that's probably a reaction or overreaction from COVID fatigue would be
Yeah,
my
fair.
guess. But I think that we'll watch that, and see if that sort of adjusts where we focus our marketing. That right now, we're seeing that specialization decline and some of the courses related to it. And then we're seeing increases in brand strategy and those sorts of
Hmm.
areas. Change management is an area. We keep hearing about nonprofit, um, which is an area that we already serve, but not formally.
Mm,
And so the question is it an area that people will pay for formally?
right.
So, it's something that, we've got, we're we watch these things. I probably have a list of, I don't know, don't want to over exaggerate, probably a dozen things that we are always considering, um, where we might make future adjustments. But I do think that we'll continue to see evolution in our programs as we adjust around what we know our students want and don't want, what we know the industry is looking for. The data program, and I don't know if we haven't talked about it here yet, but one of the things that is neat about that program specifically is that it started with a blank piece of paper in the Diversified Agency Services boardroom on Madison Avenue in New York in 2014. And
Wow.
it was us sitting around a table with a bunch of industry leaders up there, agency folks and some corporate folks. And they basically, we're talking about the talent gap in the industry. They could not hire marketing communications folks in this specific space. And so we just had a day conversation of what they needed, and took a bunch of notes, came back and spent a year and a half designing a program from scratch. We did something completely new, completely, like, we didn't take a bunch of courses we already had, modify them. We started something completely new, and the outcomes from that program are amazing. So we don't have, it's not a huge program because it's hard to get marketing communications people to sign up for a program that's all about data. So because most of them wind up there because they didn't enjoy their calculus classes and,
Right.
in undergrad.
Right.
But for those that do go through that program, it's talking earlier about outcomes in the industry. Some of our grads are just doing incredible things, and that's such a sort of a validating thing to experience. And so anyway, that's one of my favorite programs. I would love to have more students in it because it would it would further validate that work. But I do think for no other reason, what it did is it also showed us, absolutely what we can accomplish when we pay attention to the industry and what we're trying to create that is going to be of benefit for students, and not losing sight of, making things, trying to cut. And this is going to sound terrible, but trying to take an easier path using existing resources, but
Hmm.
starting and saying, okay, I need a course in programmatic media buying. I don't have anybody on my faculty that knows programmatic media buying in a way that so I need to go find somebody that knows that. I need to court them. I need to,
Right.
and that was a long process, but it was such a fulfilling thing to have been able to do, that, I hope to someday be able to do that kind of work again, because that was cool. And I don't want to promise anything, but I would love to see something at the doctoral level in our program.
Me
So
too. I
yeah.
I think you had a survey a couple years ago that asked about it, and I was like, "I will be signing up the day." But you're getting to the point where it's like, by the time I graduate, I'll be retired, so maybe maybe I won't do it, but
Well,
I would love to see it. That would be phenomenal.
yeah, that's it's so the truth is that it's a super resource intensive proposition, and the one of the limiting factors is we want to do it really well, and we want to, if we committed to that, it would be with the mind of doing it and being, you know, absolutely a leader in both. We want our folks to be hired as, tenure track faculty, and just working through all of those kinks
Mhm.
and making sure that we've got everything in place to be able to create a program that delivers on all of those things. It's a deliberate process, and something that, with some of the changes that we've had recently, it's just been a, a slower thing. But who knows? I can't say anything because it's not my absolute decision, but I would hope that would be something that could be considered in the future.
I just love the way that you're thinking about the evolution of the program. I love what you were saying about AI. I think for me, doing all that training, I have to stay on top of everything. And that's really, really helpful. And I think that's also kind of the case teaching too. It's like you can't just like kind of rest on your laurels. You have to stay up to date, up to speed, and So, if you already have your master's degree and you're working in higher ed, as I said this on Ken's podcast, like consider teaching, because it's a different way to connect with students and a great way to kind of stay fresh and stay on your toes. Like they'll keep you hopping. Like
At the end of the day, that's the thing about education. I think that's the at the graduate level especially, but I think that is the benefit to being an instructor, is that you you are absolutely learning along with your students, and participating in these, in these conversations, and I mean, I don't think anybody expects us to know everything. I mean, I hope they don't, because we're people too, and these things are breaking all, as they're happening. I mean, that's really the greatest thing about the programs like like ours, that are really paying attention to cutting edge. I always think back to like the crisis communications course that happened during the BP oil spill, and that whole course, it's like it started and it was like the third day BP happened, and everything changed for that course and that student, and those students got an experience that, will probably serve them better than
right.
anything. But that instructor, that wasn't planned.
Right. They didn't do the oil spill intentionally.
So, that's the fun thing about especially graduate education, is that, you have people that, first off, they're so smart and qualified in their, in these classes, but when these things happen, that ability to sort of take it in a direction where you're working directly with, with the students to work through these things. And I really just see so much value in and power in education, but in these kinds of models. I still get out of bed in the morning excited for what we might do today. So
That's awesome. Well, if somebody is interested in the program or wants to connect with you, where can they find you?
LinkedIn, and then certainly if anyone is interested in teaching, I'm always interested in meeting new people as well. You can also connect with me through the program's website, marketingcommunications.wvu.edu. You can learn about our programs there, and my contact information is also available through that.
Thank you so much, Chad. And listeners, as always, you can find me on LinkedIn, Jaime Hunt, Jaime. You can also find me occasionally on TikTok at the Higher Ed CMO. And you can also find me on my website, which is solvehighered.com. And I would love to hear from you and hear your thoughts. And if you have any questions of me about being an alum of the program, I actually get a lot of people reach out and ask. And so feel free to do that too. But until then, as always, let's go bust some silos. Confessions of a Higher Ed CMO is part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our shows help higher ed marketers and admissions professionals find their next big idea and feature a selection of the industry best as your host. Learn from Mallory Wilsey, Seth Odell, Jenny Lee Fowler, Eddie Francis, and so many other of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered all-in-one student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.